The night on the alien world of Jatha was calm, peaceful, and full of glowing colors. The two pale moons floated high above the palace like silver shields, and the soft breeze carried the scent of crystal flowers across the gardens. The celebration of the new alliance with humans had just ended, and laughter still echoed in the distant halls. Lanterns flickered, music was fading, and servants walked slowly as they cleaned the festival grounds. Princess Lysera walked through the courtyard holding the hands of her small twin daughters, Lena and Rilla. They were tiny, only 6 years old, with bright pale blue skin, soft antennae on their heads, and big, curious eyes that always looked like they held 1,000 questions. They swung their plush toys around as they walked, giggling and whispering about the fireworks they saw earlier. The girls loved fireworks. They loved humans too, even though most aliens did not understand why. Lysera smiled at them, though she was tired. Her long robe trailed behind her, sparkling with silver threads. She was proud of the celebration, proud of the fragile peace with humans, and proud of her daughters who never showed fear toward anyone. If the Empire was a cold place full of rules, her children were the warmth that kept her heart alive. The grand nursery room was guarded by 2 of the best soldiers. When Lysera arrived, the guards bowed and opened the heavy doors. Inside was a quiet, cozy room filled with soft lights, plush pillows, and a large round bed made for alien children. The girls climbed in with sleepy arms and tired smiles. They hugged their favorite plush creatures tightly. Lysera kissed each one on the forehead and stroked their tiny antennae until their eyes started to close. "Sleep well, my little stars," she whispered. They smiled and whispered almost in unison, "Good night, Mummy." Lysera walked out slowly. The guards closed the door behind her, and she felt calm. Everything seemed perfect for a moment. She thought she would finally get a few hours of sleep, after weeks of negotiation and stress. But a mother's calm never lasts long. Hours passed. The palace grew quiet as almost everyone slept. Lysera woke again in the middle of the night with a strange feeling in her chest. It was not a sound that woke her. It was not a scream or a knock. It was something deeper instinct, a tug, like a sudden coldness inside her heart. She tried to ignore it, but it grew stronger until she had no choice but to get up again. She walked through the dim corridor toward the nursery. The torches along the walls flickered, giving long shadows that danced like ghosts. 2 guards were supposed to be standing at the nursery door, but as she walked closer, the corridor was unnaturally silent. Too silent for a palace that was usually full of life. Her breath trembled as she whispered, "Guards." No answer. She took faster steps, her gown rustling behind her. When she reached the nursery door, her body froze in horror. Both guards were on the floor, unconscious, their armor dented as if they were struck from behind. Their breathing was weak but steady. The door was slightly open. Lysera pushed it open with shaking hands. Every second felt like a knife in her chest. The room was dim, the pale lights flickering, and the soft round bed was in the center, empty blankets thrown aside, plush toys on the ground, pillows scattered. Her daughters were gone. There were no screams, no sounds, no trace of where they went. Only open windows on the far wall, curtains blowing wildly in the night wind. Lysera rushed to them and looked out, heart racing. The palace courtyard lay silent, untouched. She fell to her knees and grabbed the blankets, pressing them to her chest as tears burst from her eyes. "Lena." "Rila," she cried out, her voice cracking. But there was no answer. Only the sound of wind and her own shaking breath. Within minutes, the palace alarms erupted, loud and terrible. Soldiers ran through the halls, scanners activated, and lights ignited across the sky like burning stars. Servants screamed. The emperor himself woke from his chambers and demanded answers. Lysera stood frozen in the nursery doorway, trembling, eyes wide and hollow. She could still smell the scent of her daughters on the pillows. She could still hear their soft voices in her mind. But they were not here. They were missing, taken or lost somewhere in the darkness. There is no pain greater than a mother who cannot find her children. It eats the mind, burns the heart, and destroys sleep. In that moment, Princess Lysera was not a royal figure, not a ruler, not a symbol of power. She was only a mother, filled with terror, and the galaxy suddenly felt much colder. The alarms echoed across the palace, loud and harsh, cutting through the quiet night. Soldiers ran in every direction, their armor clanking, eyes wide with fear and confusion. Princess Lysera stood in the nursery doorway, trembling, staring at the empty bed, unable to speak. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it would burst, each beat screaming, "My daughters are gone. My daughters are gone." General Karash, the commander of the palace guard, arrived quickly, his face pale but controlled. He bowed sharply to Lysera. "Princess, we will find them. I swear it. No one enters or leaves the palace without my knowledge. They will be returned safely." Lysera shook her head violently, tears running down her cheeks. How could they vanish? The guards, the doors, the windows, everything was secure. My babies, where are they? Her voice cracked, high and raw. Someone took them. Koresh's hands tightened on the straps of his armor. "We don't know yet, but we will search. We will check every corridor, every gate, every human ally, every alien guest. Nothing is beyond our sight." Lysera's breath came in sharp gasps. She wanted to scream, but all that came out was a whisper. I feel like I'm failing them. I should have protected them." Her knees wobbled, and Koresh steadied her gently. The palace erupted in motion. Guards moved through the halls, scanning every corner with lights, waving energy sensors over floors and walls. Servants and aides shouted reports. Messages went out to every sector of the city. Drones hovered above the rooftops, sweeping the gardens, the outer walls, even the river that ran near the palace. Humans, the newest allies of the Empire, were questioned immediately. Some humans looked frightened, others confused. A few tried to explain that they had not seen anything. Princess Lysera watched them with burning suspicion, her maternal fear sharp and bright. She hated herself, for she knew humans were not all dangerous. Yet now every human looked like a threat in her eyes. Hours dragged. Every lead seemed to end in emptiness. Each corridor cleared, every gate sealed, each drone returned with nothing. Lysera ran from the courtyard to the gardens, then to the palace walls, calling her daughters' names. Each Lena echoed back cruelly from stone walls, empty and cold. The emperor arrived, tall and severe, his robes brushing the floor. He spoke with a voice that demanded order. "Princess Lysera, we must remain calm. Panic will destroy reason. We will follow the leads and find them." But even his measured words could not reach her. Her daughters were not calm. They were not reasoning, they were missing, and the night was deep, and darkness was everywhere. Koresh crouched beside her, showing the small footprints already detected by the scanners. "Princess, these are small, child-sized, and look here." He pointed to a tiny smear of alien candy stuck to the edge of the marble floor. Someone carried them, or they walked, with someone they trusted. Lysera bent closer, stomach twisting. Her daughters were trusting to trusting, and now that trust might have been taken advantage of. Her mind raced through possibilities. Kidnappers demanding ransom, a human misunderstanding, alien conspirators. Her chest tightened so much that she could barely breathe. She imagined her daughters cold, frightened, crying in the dark. She imagined them alone, needing her, and the thought nearly crushed her. "I will not let them stay in darkness," she whispered to herself. "I will find them. I will bring them home." The palace had never been so alive with tension. Soldiers scoured walls and rooftops. Drones flew overhead. Messengers ran with reports. Alarms blared constantly. But in the midst of all this chaos, Princess Lysera focused only on one thing: her daughters. Lena's bright blue eyes, Rila's soft giggle, the way they held each other when scared they were her heart walking outside her body. Night stretched long. The twin moons cast silver light over the palace gardens. And then, finally, a faint trail appeared in the scanners. Small footprints leading away from the palace gates, through the flowering garden paths, and toward the southern forest edge. Lysera's chest leaped with hope and fear at the same time. She grabbed Koresh's arm. "They're alive," she said, voice trembling. "They're alive. We will find them. We have to. Come on." And with that, she ran barefoot through the gardens, soldiers following close behind. Her gown brushed the flowers, her tears sparkling in the moonlight, every heartbeat screaming a single thought: "My children, I will not lose you. Not tonight, not ever." The night was alive with shadows as Princess Lysera and the soldiers followed the trail. Every footstep on the soft grass sounded louder than it should, echoing in the quiet forest like a warning. The twin moons spilled silver light through the trees, painting long, moving shapes on the ground. Lysera's heart pounded in her chest like a drum. She felt both hope and fear twisting inside her. Her daughters were out there somewhere, small, vulnerable, and trusting him. She had to find them before anything terrible could happen. General Koresh led the way, scanning the ground carefully. The small footprints were faint in some places, almost disappearing, but tiny smudges of alien candy crumbs marked the path, glowing slightly under the moonlight. "They didn't walk alone," Koresh said quietly. "Someone carried them part of the way." Lysera's chest tightened. Who could they trust? The thought made her stomach churn. Humans, maybe. Aliens, maybe. But someone had their hands on her daughters. And she had to find out who and why. The forest grew darker as they moved deeper. Strange flowers glowed faintly, casting soft blue and pink lights over the path. Nightbirds called in low whistles. Lysera's mind refused to stop imagining the worst. Were they crying? Were they cold? Were they scared? She pushed herself to run faster, her gown brushing against branches, her breath coming in sharp bursts. The soldiers followed, careful not to make noise that could frighten her children, or alert whoever might be watching them after some time. Koresh held up his hand. "Princess, look here." He pointed to a small clearing ahead. There, almost hidden by shrubs, was a discarded jacket the color of human uniforms. Lysera's heart stopped. Her daughters trusted humans. Could it be one of them? Could a human have been kind or dangerous? Her hands shook as she picked up the jacket. The smell of it was faint, but she recognized it immediately. Human. She closed her eyes, trying to calm herself. If it's a human, I hope they are kind. She could not bear the thought of her daughters in danger. A few steps farther, the trail became clearer. Tiny handprints, along with small footprints, led toward the southern edge of the forest where the human camp was rumored to be. Lanterns from the camp glimmered faintly between the trees. Lysera ran, almost tripping over roots, soldiers close behind. Every step brought her closer and made her more terrified. She wanted to scream for her daughters, but she feared frightening them. Then Koresh stopped her with a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Princess, stay calm. This is the last stretch. Be ready for anything, but hope that it is what we think it is." Lysera took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart. "Koresh, I need to see them. I need to know they are safe." Her voice cracked. "I can't lose them. Not now. Not ever." The camp appeared through the trees, small, simple tents with a fire pit in the center. Only a few humans were around, moving quietly, unaware of their presence. Lysera's heart jumped. There, in the largest tent, a faint glow of lantern light spilled out. Something inside moved. She could see shapes, but nothing was clear. Koresh gestured for the soldiers to move quietly. "We need to be careful. The children may be sleeping, and we do not know if anyone else is here." Lysera's hands shook as she approached. Every instinct screamed at her to run inside and grab her daughters, but she restrained herself. She wanted to see clearly first. She wanted to be certain. She had waited too long for hope, and she could not let fear make her mistake. As she reached the tent, the flap shifted slightly. A small, soft sound came from inside, a faint giggle, almost imperceptible in the night. Her heart leaped. "It's them. It's Lena or Rilla." She whispered their names softly, afraid to be too loud. The soldiers froze around her, sensing the tension. Koresh's eyes met hers, silent, serious, waiting for her command. Lysera nodded once. "We enter, slowly, carefully. My daughters are inside." Her hand trembled as she reached for the flap. The air smelled of warmth, blankets, and something unfamiliar but safe. Her heart raced so fast she thought it would tear through her chest. And inside, just beyond the fabric of the tent, a tiny shape moved, hugging another figure. Lysera's breath caught. She could barely believe her eyes. The search was almost over, but what awaited her inside that tent? She could not yet imagine. Princess Lysera's hand froze on the edge of the tent flap. Her heart pounded so loudly she thought the entire forest could hear it. The faint light inside spilled across the soft blankets, casting warm shadows on shapes that moved gently. Her breath caught. Something or someone was inside, and for a moment, her mind raced through every terrifying possibility. She leaned closer, peering in, and then she saw them. Her daughters Lena and Rhea lay, curled up on a pile of blankets. Their small bodies tangled together, faces calm in sleep. But it wasn't just them. A young human man, his dark hair tousled and uniform jacket pulled over his shoulders, lay curled around them, arms protecting both girls as if they were the most precious thing in the universe. Lysera's knees gave way, and she sank to the ground outside the tent, tears streaming down her face. She could not speak. She could not move. She could only stare. After hours of panic, hours of imagining the worst, she had finally found them, and they were alive. More than alive, they were safe. The human stirred slightly, blinking sleepily at the flap. He looked up and froze when he saw her. His hands rose slowly in a gesture of peace, empty and open. "Princess, I didn't take them," he stammered, voice quiet and calm. They came to me. They were crying. I just wanted to keep them safe." Lysera's tears fell faster, burning her cheeks, and she shook her head. "I don't understand. Why are they with you?" Her voice was sharp, trembling with relief and confusion and fear all at once. The human swallowed and looked down at the sleeping children. "They trusted me. They were scared, and they needed someone. I couldn't leave them alone." At that moment, Lena stirred and mumbled softly, still half asleep. "Mummy?" Her tiny voice floated like a whisper, making Lysera's chest ache. Rilla opened her eyes a moment later, blinking at the moonlight and at Lysera's familiar face. "Mummy," Rilla squealed, throwing herself forward. Lysera's arms closed around her instantly, holding both daughters as tightly as she could. She buried her face in their soft hair and sobbed with relief. "Oh, my babies. I thought I lost you." The girls squirmed a little, their tiny hands brushing against the human's arm. Lena whispered, "It's okay. Oliver stayed with us." Lysera looked at him. He sat up, still careful not to wake the children, and his face showed exhaustion and fear, but also calmness. He had protected them through the night, held them close, and never let them feel alone. You risked so much," Lysera whispered, still clutching her daughters. "Why?" Oliver shook his head, voice quiet. "Because someone has to protect them when they are scared. That's all. I didn't think about anything else. I just wanted them safe." Lysera's heart swelled with a mixture of gratitude, wonder, and astonishment. Humans were strange, she thought. They were reckless. They were emotional. They were unpredictable. But in that tent, under the silver moons, one human had done something no guard, no soldier, no alien could guarantee. He had kept her daughters alive and calm. Koresh, still standing near the tent flap with other soldiers, bowed slightly. "Princess, should we know?" Lysera said immediately, her voice firm but soft. "Not him. He has done no wrong. He kept my children safe. That is more than any of us could promise." She looked at Oliver with tears in her eyes. "He is a friend, a protector. Nothing else matters right now." The human's eyes widened, disbelief clear. He had expected fear, anger, punishment, but not this. He swallowed and nodded, unsure what to say. The children snuggled closer to him again in sleep, tiny fingers clutching at his uniform. Lysera smiled through her tears, realizing something incredible. Her daughters had not only survived the night, they had felt love, trust, and safety, even with someone so different from their own kind. Lysera finally stood fully, brushing her gown and looking at the camp around them. She felt a strange warmth, a hope rising inside her chest. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but sometimes that unpredictability could save lives, even change hearts. And in that moment, under the twin moons, the princess realized that the universe was wider, stranger, and more beautiful than she had ever imagined. Her daughters were safe. A human had kept them safe, and the impossible, wonderful truth settled in her heart. Hope could come in the most unexpected form. The fire crackled softly outside the tent, sending warm orange light over the trees, but inside, Princess Lysera's mind burned hotter than any flame. She still held her daughters close, rocking them slightly, listening to their soft breathing. Lena's tiny fingers clutched her hair, and Rila's little head rested on her shoulder. Relief filled Lysera, but questions churned in her mind. How had this happened? Who was this human? And why had her children trusted him so completely? She looked at Oliver, who sat quietly, his dark eyes lowered. His hands rested on his knees, still careful not to startle the girls. He was exhausted. She could see it. His hair was messy, his uniform rumpled, and his face pale from worry and sleepless hours. But he had done what no one else had dared. He had comforted her children, held them and protected them through the night. Lysera's voice trembled as she finally spoke. "Oliver, I need you to tell me everything. How did this happen? How did my daughters end up with you?" Oliver swallowed and looked at her, hesitant but honest. "Princess, it was not like I planned. I didn't take them, I swear. I was just nearby, checking the human camp after the celebration. I heard them crying. I saw them run toward the tents. They were scared. They ran straight to me. I didn't know what else to do. I just held them, kept them close, didn't let them go until they slept." Lysera's chest tightened, relief mixed with disbelief. She had imagined kidnappers, danger, threats that could crush empires. She had imagined her daughters lost, frightened, crying in the dark. And now, here they were, safe, because a human had acted without fear, without hesitation, simply out of care. Why? Why did they trust you? She asked softly. Oliver shrugged, still unsure of himself. I don't know. They came to me. They hugged me. I told them stories, made them laugh. I guess that helped. I stayed awake with them, just until they felt safe. Lysera's lips trembled. Her daughter's small hands were still clutching at her, their trust in him evident even now. She felt a strange warmth in her chest. Humans were unpredictable, often reckless, yes, but they could also be gentle. And sometimes that gentleness could save lives. The twins began to stir in their sleep, small sighs escaping their lips. Lena opened her eyes first and smiled faintly, seeing Oliver nearby. "Oliver," she whispered. Rella followed, rubbing her eyes, then nestled closer to him again. "You stayed with us," she murmured. Lysera knelt beside them, brushing their hair back gently. "Yes, he stayed with you. He kept you safe." Her eyes met Oliver's, full of emotion. "Do you understand what that means? You could have been harmed, lost. But he made sure you were protected. He did not leave you alone." Oliver's face turned red. He looked down, embarrassed. "I only did what anyone would do, I think." "No," Lysera said firmly, her voice shaking but resolute. "Not anyone. Not every human would have done this. Most would have panicked. Most would have alerted the guards, maybe even frightened the girls more. You stayed. You were calm. You were gentle. And because of that, my children are alive tonight." The twins looked between their mother and Oliver, sensing something important in her words. Rila hugged him quickly, and Lena's hand reached for his arm. Lysera's chest swelled. She had worried for so long that someone, anyone, could harm them. But here was proof that kindness could come from unexpected places, even from someone very different from her own people. Koresh, who had been silently observing from the tent entrance, nodded in agreement. Princess, it seems this human acted with nothing but protection and care. He saved the children. Lysera took a deep breath, letting the tension drain slightly from her body. She felt a wave of gratitude, respect, and awe wash over her. Oliver, thank you, she said softly. You did more than anyone could have hoped. You kept them alive, and you kept them calm. For that, I owe you everything. Oliver shook his head, still unsure how to respond. I just did what I thought was right, he said quietly. Lysera smiled through her tears. That is enough. That is more than enough. She looked at her daughters, still half asleep, and felt a profound shift in her heart. Humans were strange, yes, but sometimes that strangeness held courage and compassion that no one else could match. The night outside continued quietly, but inside the tent, the warmth of trust, relief, and wonder filled the space. For the first time since the disappearance, Princess Lysera felt hope again. Her daughters were safe, and the man who had protected them had shown her that even across worlds and species, kindness could shine brighter than fear, and that knowledge, she realized, was more powerful than any weapon, any guard, any palace wall. The next morning, the palace was alive with whispers. Soldiers, advisors, and servants moved quickly through the marble halls, sharing news of the night's events. Word had spread that Princess Lysera's daughters had been found alive, unharmed, thanks to the actions of a human. Some were shocked, others skeptical, and a few were openly angry. Humans were still outsiders in the Jathari Empire, their presence barely tolerated. And now, one of them had stolen the attention of the royal family and saved the princess's children. The emperor summoned everyone to the great hall, a massive chamber with high ceilings, crystal and banners of the royal house fluttering in the soft morning light. The room was filled with hundreds of aliens, dignitaries, and guards, all murmuring, waiting for the princess to speak. Oliver was brought in cautiously, escorted by Koresh, who gave him a reassuring nod. He looked around nervously, aware that he was far from home, surrounded by beings much larger, stronger, and more formal than him. Princess Lysera stepped forward, her daughters clinging to her gown, their small faces pale but curious. The hall fell silent as all eyes turned to her. This was the moment to explain, to defend, and to decide the fate of the human who had risked so much. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. My children vanished last night, she began, her voice clear and strong. The palace was searched, every guard questioned, every gate secured, and yet my daughters disappeared. I feared the worst. I imagined danger, betrayal, and harm. She paused, letting her words sink in. But my daughters were not harmed. They were not frightened by strangers, and they did not suffer alone. They were found safe, because of one human. A ripple of murmurs went through the hall. Some gasped, others frowned. Humans had never been praised in this way in the Empire. Many expected Lysera to scold, punish, or demand answers, but she did not. She stepped closer to Oliver, who stood stiffly, unsure of what was happening. Oliver, she said softly but firmly, you could have panicked. You could have alerted others, caused confusion, or left them to guards who would have treated them as a problem. Instead, you stayed. You protected them. You calmed them. You kept them safe. For this, I owe you gratitude, respect, and recognition." The court erupted with murmurs and questioning glances. A few council members stepped forward, voices rising with suspicion. "Princess," one demanded, "how can you honor a human? They are outsiders. They are unpredictable. They could have endangered your children." Lysera's eyes blazed, and her voice rang out like a bell in the great hall. "You are wrong. This human did not endanger my children. He protected them. He stayed awake while they slept. He comforted them when they were frightened. His courage and care saved their lives." Some members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Others stared, astonished. Lysera continued, her voice steady, full of authority and emotion. "Do you see now why humans are not weak, not dangerous by default? They are different, yes. They are strange. But in that difference, they can be brave, kind, and compassionate. This boy has shown us what humanity is capable of. He has shown us that life, love, and courage are not limited to bloodlines or species." She turned to her daughters, who clung to her side, and then back to Oliver. "My daughters trusted him, and so do I let this hall remember that a human saved lives where fear might have failed. That human is a protector, a guardian, and a friend. Nothing else matters." The room fell silent. Hundreds of alien eyes were fixed on Oliver, who now looked stunned, humbled, and almost embarrassed. He had expected punishment. He had expected questions, maybe anger, but not this, not respect, not honor. Koresh finally spoke, his voice calm but firm. "The princess speaks the truth. Courage and protection have no species. We owe our thanks, not our anger, to this human." Lysera nodded, smiling through tears. "Let him remain free. Let him be recognized. Let the Empire see that humanity, when brave and kind, can be a friend to us all." Slowly, applause began. Small at first, then louder, echoing through the hall. Aliens stood and nodded, murmuring agreement. Some were reluctant, but even the hardest skeptics could not ignore the truth. Oliver's eyes met Lysera's. She nodded once, firmly, gently. Her daughters squealed softly with joy and hugged him again. In that moment, something extraordinary happened. A human, once an outsider, had earned the trust and respect of an empire, and Princess Lysera knew, deep in her heart, that this night would be remembered, not just for the safe return of her daughters, but for the courage, compassion, and unexpected strength that humanity had shown. The palace was alive with celebration, though not the kind of noisy festival it had been the night before. This was a quiet, profound joy that filled every corner of the grand halls. Word had spread across the empire. Princess Lysera's daughters were safe, and a human had protected them. That alone was remarkable, but what made it unforgettable was the way he had done it with courage, calmness, and kindness. Oliver stood at the center of the great hall, his uniform slightly wrinkled, his dark hair messy, his eyes wide with disbelief. Hundreds of alien dignitaries and soldiers looked at him, some with curiosity, some with admiration. And everywhere he looked, Lysera's daughters were smiling, holding his hands, their tiny bodies full of trust and joy. Lena giggled and tugged at his sleeve. Rilla leaned her head against his shoulder. Oliver had never felt such warmth in his life, and yet he also felt the weight of the attention, unsure if he deserved it. Princess Lysera stepped forward, her gown flowing behind her, her daughters still clinging to her. She raised her voice, clear and strong, so everyone in the hall could hear. Last night, my daughters vanished. Fear filled my heart. Panic consumed this palace. I imagined everything terrible that could happen, but then they were found, alive, safe, and it was because of one human. She turned to Oliver, her eyes shining with tears and pride. He did not panic. He did not run. He did not leave them alone. He protected them. He comforted them. He kept them safe, even when the night was dark and the world seemed frightening. The hall was silent, every alien listening. Many had never heard such words spoken about.